welcome to Study Buddies All About Studying Abroad series, your go-to information resource for everything to do with studying abroad. In this series, we try to cover everything that an aspiring international student needs to know before deciding to study abroad, so that you can make a fully informed decision and get the best out of your student life. Today, we are prepared to answer all your questions, and so we've even invited an expert, Mr. Ajay Sharma, who can help answer all that you need to know. We have received some questions from you, and we have picked the most popular questions that students who want to know about applying for the student visa in the US or Canada. So let's get started. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, a pleasure.
So you have been in the business since 1994. Please tell us more about what you do, how the journey has been.
Well, to put it simply, we partner the life-changing decisions.
Most importantly, I think it also defines the way your life is going to be in for the future.
People mostly talk about quality of life because, when you're going to these countries like Canada, USA, UK, New Zealand, Australia, France, Germany, because study is not just about the destinations, now is across the world. Interestingly, it also depends on the course that you're taking on, and you have students going to destinations, choosing the destinations where the infrastructure is good, but maybe, the primary purpose studies. You could talk about Ukraine, Russia, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. So these countries are also popular destinations for medical students and engineering students. So,
right. So definitely we're going to know a lot from you. We have list of questions from students who are interested to go to Canada and the US.
Yes.
And as expected, because I've been a student myself, and every time I would think about going to any foreign country, study international, the first thing that comes to mind is the costing.
Yes.
So we'll start with Canada. What is the cost of studying in Canada?
It depends, first of all, and the most important, in the course and the duration. Because if you're going for a 4-year degree, undergraduate degree, the spend is more. You're choosing a 2-year qualification, the spend is less. It also depends on the city and the university that you choose. Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, Montreal, in the Canadian context, these are expensive cities to live in. So if you choose a university or a college to study there, obviously, you should have a budget of anywhere between 25 to 35 lakhs in Indian rupees, especially if you're doing a 4-year undergraduate course. This is a recommendation that I love to give to youngsters, that, go to smaller provinces. You could go to Prince Edward Island, you could go to Nova Scotia, and there are some territories within Canada. You can go there where the universities, being smaller places, they charge less fee, and also the cost of living as a student is less. Getting a permanent resident visa also becomes a natural, option, because the provinces are more than happy to nominate such students so that they are encouraged to stay and live in those provinces forever.
All right. So from what you said, I definitely understand that the number of years, the kind of course, and the place you're living in, all these matters, including the lifestyle of the student.
Yes.
So one thing that comes in mind whenever we think about studying international, or and in consideration with the cost, is working part-time.
Yes.
So if we can find any of that, there will be a lot of cost cutting in the overall budget. So what is the possibility of finding a part-time project? Because that is also one of the popular questions after the cost of the course.
You have, of course, a choice of working for 20 hours a week, and then, unlimited hours when, you have holidays. But there are some courses where, the duration that's permitted as part of the course can be as much as 3 to 4 months, because that's almost like internship as part of the course. So because the duration is more, you end up making more money, and you end up contributing more to your tuition fee. So again, it helps a lot, 20 hours a week, unlimited number of hours otherwise during the holiday break. And you can pick up some courses where internship or practical training is part of the course, which can help you in working more number of hours as part of the course.
So there's one student, it's a very direct question here, and is there a possibility of international students being able to apply for permanent residency? I think this comes from the corner of the fact that some students do not want to return back, they just want to stay there and, you know, spend their rest of their life. So what is the answer to this question?
My genuine, from the heart response is this, that make study your priority. You know, that's a mistake people often do, that, you know, okay, you know, I'm going to study in Canada or UK or Australia or New Zealand so that I become a permanent resident. In the process, they lose the focus on the study.
Oh, yeah.
Having said that, in the Canadian context, one gets a post-study work permit depending on the duration of the course that you undergone. So one gets a post-study work permit. Accordingly, it could be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. After the qualification, if you work for a year or so in one of the eligible occupations, not any occupation, then there's a possibility, strong possibility, that you can apply for permanent resident visa, and there's a category called Canadian Experience Class. You get PR visa under that particular category.
You know, I can see that there's a lot of fear among the students because the next question is related to the visas. So, you know, more than often I've seen, even with my friends, that a lot of things are very well prepared, but then they're also getting rejected. They're not allowed. There's a lot of rejection when it comes to visas. So, what are the precautions that students can take before applying?
I would say the most important step and the precaution is choosing the right course.
Oh, yeah.
Because, you know, what happens is this, that you are so eager to be studying abroad, you end up picking up a qualification as your future course of study, which actually speaking is unrelated. It's like you have a commerce background and you're trying to do a course in psychology, so which may have a requirement for a scientific a background in science.
There's a contradiction there.
So you are trying to do econometrics or a course in economics, but you do not have any background in mathematics. So you choose a course which is unrelated to your past qualifications. That's a very big red flag for the case officers. Second is that, you know, the ability to really speaking finance the course. So that comes through various means. One could say one's parents are sponsoring, and bank loans is a popular means these days. And interestingly, if it's a bank loan, the probability, because when you have a confirmed bank loan, that bank loan is mostly given against a collateral.
Yes.
So the probability of getting a visa becomes higher if you take a bank loan. So ability to support your education is the second flag. Third is a very critical document called statement of purpose.
Okay.
So whenever you file for an application, you prepare a critical document called statement of purpose, which identifies why you have chosen this course and what are your future plans after doing this course, how it's related to your past learnings and qualifications. So that statement of purpose is a very critical document. So if that's not well defined, so that leads to multiple refusals.
All right. So there are three that we received from you. One would be the right course. It has to be relatable. Next is the finances.
Yes.
And the third one is statement of purpose.
Very critical.
All right. So these three are the most important precautions that you have to take if you are applying. Let's see what the next question is.
Yes.
Can you give us an estimate of the processing time for getting a study permit?
I'm going ahead with the presumption that now the COVID situation is behind us, and hopefully. And in coming years, the processing times will come to normal. At this stage, one could be talking about anywhere between 60 to 90 days as the application processing time. I would, however, recommend, based on our understanding and experience of the visa process, that you should have all your documents in place 6 months, around 6 months prior to the filing of application. 60 to 90 days is normal, but one should plan, depending on the university course or destination, at least 6 months in advance or a year in advance.
6 months is, I think, minimum that you would suggest.
Minimum.
1 year is a very safe side.
Very safe
Because
side.
deadlines are very important in universities abroad.
Very important.
I mean, like you said,
Yes.
if we are to go in September, maybe
Yeah.
they'll stop taking students or taking applications from March.
Exactly. Maybe
So-
before that.
Maybe before that,
Some
yeah.
from the top months before that.
Oh, okay. Which brings me to there are a lot of students here who are maybe not looking for long-term courses like maybe 4 years bachelor's or 2 years master's degree in that context. So do we also need a study permit for short courses? That
Well,
is
up to 8 months, normally there is no study permit required.
alright.
The international travel history of such candidates is critically important. Because you have no international history and you straightway apply for a short-term course, the probability of getting a visa for the purpose is, I would put it this way, of course everything is possible. The more the history you have as in international travel, high is the probability that you will get such a short-term visa also. But you don't need study permit for that.
So our next question is along the same lines, because I can actually see IELTS and CELPIP and TEF exams. So do we really need IELTS, CELPIP or TEF exams for Canadian study permits?
You cannot do without it.
Not
You
at all.
You cannot, because not are these tests a compulsory requirement. It's a fact that better the score, better the university and college that you're going to get. A lower score or an average score means that you end up being with an average institution whose the qualifications value post when you go into the job market may not be as high. So we recommend to the students that prior to giving your IELTS test for the purpose of going abroad or other forms of tests, whether it's TOEFL and other courses, prepare well.
I think eventually everything boils down to how serious you are about choosing the university.
Yes.
If you want a good university, you must have a good score. So start preparing is what I think you would suggest.
That's right.
I'm just speaking on behalf of him. He said start preparing for all these courses. So yes, I think there's one more question which is related to PR or say working visas here. Which course can be beneficial if we look at it from the point of view of securing work visa or permanent residencies, like you said before, because we had one more PR question earlier and you said the right course can be a very good point here, which I think now we can have it elaborated.
The best thing to do is, before you choose a course, do a short Google search. Occupations in demand, occupations in shortage. For example, you're talking in the Canadian context. So which are the occupations which are in shortage in the Canadian job market?
Oh.
Identify that occupation. You will choose a related course.
True.
So because you know very well that there is a major demand means you get better dollars.
True.
So post your qualifications, you're picked up from the campus before you say hello. So do your research well, identify the occupations in demand, in shortage, in that particular country, which you are destined to go, and do a course in a related area. People do not look at the trade courses.
Oh.
And which I think is a big mistake. I, for one, have never understood you're going to Canada, to UK, to USA, to Australia, to New Zealand. Do what? I'm going to do a BBA.
Oh.
Wow. You can do as much of BBA as you want sitting in your own country.
Yes, true.
Okay?
Yeah.
If you have, you didn't do score a very high percentage of mark, your English language score is not very high, why not pick up a trade course like an electrician? A plumber, people laugh about it. A carpenter. You know what?
Yeah.
These trades make more money than an MBA or an IT professional. They live in bigger houses
Okay.
than you'll call a typical professional. So, don't go for the sake of going and doing any course, choose a course that will give you good earning potential also. And in that context, if you choose a trade, do it.
I can understand that it's very important to know and realize that you're going to a different country which has a very different culture and way of looking at different kind of professions. So the pay is going to be different than what it is in your country, and of course the dignity of labor is such a big difference between developed and developing is something that I will remember for a very long time, definitely. In the Canadian context, we have our final question. We have a list of questions, but I think we've only picked the most popular ones, which was constantly asked to us. So the next one and the final one in the Canadian context is, once the student moves there, do they require health insurance?
So you could be talking about it in the American context, the British context. Doesn't matter which country you go to. Health insurance is a must. International health insurance, without that, you can't even think of studying abroad. So you budget for that in your student expense.
So that's already included, and you have to have health insurance.
Without that, you can't do that.
In Canada.
You can't do that.
Well, I guess that concludes all our questions about studying in Canada. Thank you so much for clearing our doubts. I think the students who want to study in the US have been patiently waiting to have their questions answered too. So let's get into it right away. All right. So in context of the US, again, I can see a lot of confusion, and the questions are very varied. And whenever someone plans to go international, and that I know how it works, most middle class families have this, students have this thing that, okay, I'll go there and I'll earn and then I'll pay, which is again related to working part-time in country like that. Because they have this thing, okay, we can work part-time. So how possible is it to work part-time in the US?
Same, 20 hours a week, one can work, and on campus or off campus. So that's permitted, that's done.
So there is 20 hours of working in both Canada and the US that way?
That's normally standard. Some countries may have a little bit more or less, but 20 hours is quite a standard.
That's a standard time. So it is possible to work part-time on campus or off campus, depending on whatever is feasible for you. There's one question that I think confuses a lot of students when it comes to the USA. Because credit systems are very different, in every country, from country to country, it's very different. So what exactly is the credit system in the USA is our next popular question in context of the USA.
Well, GPA, so grade point average. So normally 4.0 is the benchmark. And for international students, I would say 3.3 is an acceptable score from major universities and colleges. Because better the score you have, better the chances of getting into a better university. And also, a better university means CPT, because practical training, post-qualification practical training. So that's also normally permitted in USA. Post-qualification, it can be 1 to 3 years, depending on the course that you do. And that's also taken if you successfully complete your qualification in USA. You see, I might have answered many of your questions in one single go.
You have, actually, because the another next popular question, especially in context to the credit system, is what is GPA and what is CPT?
So these are normal things,
Yeah, and I think we've already received the answer for that.
Exactly.
If there's anything you would want to add up.
Well, that's it. I think
That's it?
well, that's it for the moment, I think. Yeah.
All right. So yes, study well, aim for higher.
Yes.
If that's what the answer is to almost every course that you want to talk about. And with that wraps up all the questions we have for today. We really hope it helped you get the answers you needed. And we'll be sure to cover more questions next time. Thank you so much for watching. And do subscribe to our channel because we will keep bringing you information that will definitely help you if you are aspiring to study abroad.
Thank you.